and gentlemen, and welcome to the Woman to Woman TV show. And this evening, we're talking about raising children. And I'd like to hear from the people that call in this evening their opinions on the focus, the approach, the reality of raising our children. And in today's world, what does that look like? What does that look like, raising our children? I have several grandchildren, but at the moment I have two that are right around the corner from me. So I see them practically every day. And they are 5 and 7 years old. And I'm telling you that these little boys, they are so, I love them so dearly, but I can tell that they're changing in terms of how they respond to me. And I'm not sure if my approach in dealing with that change is appropriate. So I want to hear from all of you in terms of what you think the right thing to do with a 5 and a 7-year-old are when they are inquisitive. They're doing all kind of things, asking all kind of questions. And so I love it when my son comes to get them in the morning to take them to school, because it's almost like they say, "Oh, Daddy, you come to save us from Grandma." I want them to take a bath and I want them to go to bed at 9 o'clock, and they'd be like, "But we ain't sleepy." Oh, I don't care. It's time to go to bed. You got to get them, go to school in the morning. They don't like that. They don't like that. Welcome to the show, Sandra. How are you?
Hey Wanda, how you doing?
I'm fine. I'm talking to Miss Karen over here, and we were talking about, what raising our children. I mean, and today that's a whole different ball game than what it was when I was raising my children. My baby happens to be, let's see, she's 50 years old.
That's right.
So it's been a long time since I raised some babies, but I've been raising my grandchildren over the years. But raising grandchildren it's not the same. You don't use the same approach. At least I didn't use the same approach, because my son says sometimes I let them get away with something. He'll say, "You didn't let me get away with that. No, you can't do that." I'm like, okay. Uh, I kind of introduced myself and some of my issues. Karen, would you tell us who you are and give us a 1 minute spiel on what you want us to know about some of the things you've done with raising your children? Then
Well,
we'll go to Miss Sandra.
I'm a woman of theologian, and I have to accept that I really didn't raise my children. My children were raised by women like you, by my mother, and my biological father and his wife. They had so many grandparents in their
Yeah,
lives, so these
yeah,
kids were so fortunate and
yeah,
blessed.
yes.
And I was blessed to have them. So to be able to even remember that. But what I just heard you say in regards to what you're doing with them, one of the things that I do know, many, many, many children are not blessed like that to have grandparents. And when you go inside of these schools today,
Yeah,
they don't see elders anymore.
yes, yeah,
And
yeah,
elders are the balance, the young and the old. We're the balance of society. And so, those boys are going to be magnificent.
I
They
hope
they get
so.
away with stuff, whatever you let them get away with. That's It's really not your problem. You have a right to have fun. You didn't already raise folks. You know, but them other people, they're gonna have to worry about how
Oh,
how
yeah.
how they handle that, because it is causing some real
Issues.
challenges.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
There's some real issues going on. And for today, uh, to hear about all of the gun violence and black on black crime, it frightens me, because it's like it's right in your face. Today's grandma is probably in her late 30s.
That's right.
And so today's great grandma might be in her late 50s.
Oh, no, 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 no. She's not in her late 30s. The grandma is in her, she could be in her maybe in her 30s. Because I was 37 years old when I became grandma.
Okay.
And that's back in the 90s.
Okay.
So these generations are much faster than mine. And
Oh
mine
yeah.
was at warp speed, you know. So
Yeah.
and I'm
Yeah.
a baby boomer. So when we
Yeah.
look at it, I think that that's, a part of our conversation is looking at us in generations as opposed to looking at us personally, because the personal, what it does is it kicks the principle under the rug,
Oh,
you
absolutely.
know. I mean, because your boys are gonna do fine, your grandkids are gonna do fine. It's just like that young man who used to host the show. You let him host the show a lot.
Oh, that was Sandra's grandson.
Yeah. I mean, he
Yeah. I
naturally is so,
loved him to host the show
yeah.
because he was so intellectual.
Hmm.
That young man did his research and then he was able to come on the show and tell you what he discovered, and he was adamant about his approach, and I was like, I want him to show the rest of these young people how to act.
But no, no, see, and that's what's not fair,
Okay.
because he
He
was
was
the
Sandra's granddaughter, Sandra's grandson.
he's an example of what's poured into. See, like when we use names, we really do kick a whole lot of folks under the bus. If we because we're talking about children we don't know. We
Yeah,
don't know their experiences. We don't know what they don't get.
that's
But
true.
when you have a mother or a grandmother who's like yourself or Sandra or whatever, my grandkids are scary. They're so doggone smart. And I'm talking about the great grandkids.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
When,
yeah,
when,
yeah.
when, when my grandson answers the phone, he says, "I'm Malcolm Estevan Dubois Smith." Because I was taking African American history when I was pregnant with his grandfather.
Okay.
So they're where they are. It's like the prophet Khalil Gibran says, our children are not our children. We may house their bodies, but not their minds. Their minds belong in the house of tomorrow, a
Ooh.
place we cannot visit, not even in our dreams. So
Mhm.
when people pour too much into the old wine into the new wine, what happens? The Bible says it bursts. They turn around and
Mm.
they turn on you. You know, and so but you're the grandma, remember, so you can do what you're doing.
Mhm.
It's it is, and they're just blessed. You know, because
Thank you.
yeah, they're
Thank
really
you.
blessed.
I appreciate that statement. Let's welcome Sandra to the show. And Sandra, I know you have some input on raising children because you're still in the same city with your grandchildren and with your children and your grandchildren, and you interact with them probably on a daily basis. Sandra is a lot like she does a lot like I do, whether she admits it or not. So, Sandra, tell
Yes,
us
ma'am.
about your experiences with your grandchildren or with your children.
Well, similar to you, I was fortunate. I had a son to raise, and it's amazing. I had four grandsons and one granddaughter.
Okay.
I kept wishing for another granddaughter, didn't get one. Too late now. All over. Everybody's done. So she's the
Everybody's
only
done.
one. She's the only one. But I have a great granddaughter, and which again, she's absolutely wonderful.
Oh,
Well,
great.
again, raising kids, as you know, because we talked about this when we were young women. Because I met you when your kids were small. You
Yeah.
met me when Chris was a toddler. He's
Yeah.
47 years old now.
47. And look, Cheryl is 50.
See, that's why I just heard you say that. So again, I've been knowing her since she was 6 or 7, 5.
Yeah.
Because we was
Yeah.
at the birthday party. She was talking to me, trying to get the bicycle, for a little bitty self, like, okay, y'all better go get this girl a bike. which you
Go.
already had, and she just didn't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. She just,
But
oh.
yeah, she was really something. I mean, you know, again, we had similar, very again similar with raising our kids. My mom was heavily involved, as well as my father, stepfather, my grandmother. my children were fortunate enough to know their great grandmother,
That's wonderful. Yeah,
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 yeah. So it makes it, and they're great grandfathers.
yeah.
So they got a chance to know all of them on both sides of the family. And then we're a blended family too, and we were very family oriented. So it was never really a struggle. It was kind of fun. I mean, we had our times with them, and um, again, making sure they were safe. Safety was always the main concern,
Yeah.
especially with them. And they were on school. My kids were on a school bus before. You know, Chris took a school bus the entire time he was in elementary. He attended
Yeah.
Beasley, and then when he came from Beasley, he went to Whitney Young. That was the big
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
He didn't want us to drive him to school because that's what we were gonna do. And he was like, "Oh no, I'm not doing that. You be making people think I'm kind of some kind of sissy or a punk." I'm like, "What? What does that have to do with us dropping you off at school, boy?" And and he was adamant about not going to Lane Tech, which I agree because I wasn't driving all the way over there. And I really, Whitney Young was okay, but again, it was just like we were on the Southwest side living. So again,
Oh, you have to
getting
drive
that
them
route
over there.
together,
Yeah.
and he had a couple of difficulties on the bus, and it was real crazy because he talks about that now. It's amazing. Your kids never forget stuff. We handle it and put it away somewhere. They bring it up every time they get with their friends or families together to throw it up and say, "Let me tell you what my mother did that was real crazy one time." I'm like, and so I stand there and I hold my breath because I never know what he's about to say. Because I'm like, what are you about to tell now on me? And then I
I
wind up
know.
having to say, well, I really did that because out of love, out of love, the
Yeah.
fact that I care. As I said, this guy took his, I think the name of the store was Wild Coyote or something. It was a leather store in Ford City, and he had this leather coat that he wanted, and he was working after school for Kid Smart,
Oh.
and I kept saying, I'm not buying that leather coat. If you want a coat, you're gonna have to save your money and get that coat because I'd already bought school clothes. I'd already bought a coat. I'm not buying that leather coat. So he was gonna see save his money because they had a little layaway thing. I think he keep it only for 30 days. So he had went in there and he got paid every week at Kids Mart. So he
Okay.
started the layaway itself. We go over there and ask me, Mom, on your way home from pick me up, can you stop me at Kids Mart so I can make a payment on my coat? I'm like, oh yeah.
That'll
Okay,
work.
okay, okay. Then
That'll
finally,
work.
Mom, can you stop by Ford City so I can go pick up my coat? I can take my coat out today. I'm like, he gonna spend all his money,
Of course, getting
every
that
bit of
coat.
to go get this coat.
That's what
Okay,
he
he don't have
wanted.
no
That's
money
what
to
he
the next
wanted.
pay period. Okay,
That's what he wanted.
so we go get the coat. He's crazy about the coat. We see the coat and realize it's a nice leather coat. I never would get
Uh,
beautiful color and everything. I said, boy, I don't know if you should be wearing that coat on the bus. Mind
oh.
about this coat? They may not even know it's leather. I said, people are not that stupid. Believe me, thieves know leather. They know diamonds from cubic zirconians. They know gold from that fake stuff. They know because that's their job to know. No, ma, no, ain't no problem. He detours on a route. I don't know why he wound up on Ashland and
Oh.
59th Street. I've never found out why he wouldn't probably following some of his other school friends. They like to travel together in a group. So he gonna get off, and he said he's gonna catch the 59th Street bus home. And he said this dude, as he got ready to get on the bus, the dude snatches the back of his jacket
See
and has
there?
him in a position where he winds up snatching the jacket off of him because he didn't have it zipped up.
Oh.
And the bus driver, he said, had already had put the bus in park and was trying to help because as Chris is holding on, he couldn't get the left arm out because he's holding on, well, the right arm. He couldn't get the right arm out because Chris is holding on once he realized what's happening. So the bus driver is trying to help him, going to try to pull Chris in the jacket onto the bus and make the guy have to let go. That didn't work out. He happened to see the car that the guy got in, which was amazing. I remember that car now.
So the guy was on the bus, but then he
He
gets
was
in
at
the
the
car.
bus stop, like he was getting on the bus,
Oh, at the bus
and he
stop.
was
Okay.
standing there waiting. And so after he does that, he comes right down the lane. Because isn't that far? Gets to the house. He gets off. He's telling me what's going on. I go, what? Because he comes in through the front. So I had the back door open because probably the dog out there or something. I immediately get my keys off the island and I said, come on here. And he told me what kind of car he was in. I take my ass over there to 59th and Ashland. But as
Oh,
I'm getting him, I did,
Sandra,
right? So I pulled my weapon from under my seat to
girl,
get
you
the
too
guy to
bad
get
for
because
me.
he took my baby's coat. And we get
Oh,
over. the craziest
Yeah.
part, we get over there, the dude is there with the car, but he ain't got the coat.
What do you
So
do with
Chris gets mad because I do something similar like what we did up there by Northwestern Hospital.
Oh, I
So
know.
I put the weapon up to the dude's neck and say, "You better tell me what my baby's coat is," you know. And I call him a bunch of names. Then he starts sweating and acting crazy. Luckily, another guy across the street who knew me, he came running. He came running over there to my
Sandra, you
Sandra.
put the gun to the boy's
He's
head.
about Sandra. That's Sandra. What I said. First of all, you don't take nothing from this one, you know. And then I was amazed that he had the nerve to still be in the vicinity. I'm thinking, how stupid can they really be? So you
He didn't
thought
think,
there
he
wasn't gonna
didn't
be
think, he didn't know Sandra was gonna come over
there was
there.
no consequence for doing something crazy like this. So he runs over there and he's yelling. He's like, Sandra, let the dude go. Sandra. that I said he took my baby's coat. So the other guy's going, ma'am, I'm telling you, he sold the coat. He sold the coat immediately, ma'am. And he said, yeah, you want the money. So he pulls out this $50 worth of. I said, well, $50. I look at Chris and said, how much did that coat cost you? And he's up there looking crazy, mad, going. He never cried. He said, I paid over $200 for that jacket. I said, you want us to take $50? He said, man, that's all I got. So I snatched the $50 out of his hand, called him a bunch of other things. And my friend is going, what is wrong with you?
Girl, but today you can't do that.
But no, today, unfortunately,
No,
you can't.
today you
You
can't
just
do
have
that.
you would have had to pull the trigger. But
Yeah.
the same crazy time is that at that time, like I said, I was young. My thing
Yeah.
was, again, don't sit up here and violate him like that. But like I told him, I told you not to be on Ashland.
Yeah, you did.
I
Well,
told you do not
but he
be
was
messing
gonna
around.
do what he wanted to
He
do.
riding with his friends, right? He wanted to be with his friend. He knew it was a connecting bus. I said, because this could have went. Luckily, all he wanted was the jacket, which was dumb because he had somebody's expensive book bag, you know. And I
Wait,
was like, but
don't go
he
there.
was just so crazy. All he was recognizing was the jacket. And I mean, and
Well,
I wound up seeing the car owner. The crazy part, several years later, the
Sandra.
car owner and the dude wind up being one of the field workers for us with a campaign.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly. And then he comes up and he said, well, I remember that day. I was just trying to tell you, I was just trying to get something to eat, this, that, and other. I said, dude, you was about to lose your life. Not because of the jacket, but because you actually grabbed my son. I said, that crazy part was he's the only son. I said, I don't do do-overs, makeup. We can't replace these kids. I was
That's right.
involved in the stuff that I was involved in because of my son, to keep my
Mhm.
son safe. I didn't want the police dealing with my son the wrong way. So I was a beat facilitator for decades. And
Okay.
again,
Okay. Okay.
they knew my son.
Oh.
Yeah, they
Oh.
knew my son.
See this woman here. She got all the stories, and she got how you got two
No,
girls
you got
and
some stories too. Don't try to
yeah,
don't try
you
to now.
got
Don't let
you
me
got
tell on you.
she got two she got two girls and a boy, and this girl, they all doing something that they want to do. So they're not prisoners. They haven't been to jail. My kids haven't been to jail. So I think all in all, we did pretty good because they still around. But
Yes.
but but there are other people that weren't so lucky. And so I want to know, how do we make sure today in 2024, when violence is so prevalent and our children out there, I can't tell you how often I wake up in a cold sweat just thinking about my son, the oldest one, who works at Marriott. That's okay. But he drives Uber and Lyft. He has a bat in the front seat of his car, and he has a conceal and carry weapon. And I think about, the time that I saw this man who had a conceal and carry weapon. He was in the car with his wife. He was in the car with his child. And when he got stopped by the police, he told the officer that he had a conceal and carry weapon. And he got shot anyway. So that I think about that. all the
But I think
time.
that's called trauma, Wanda. That's the thing that you all keep. And again, we won't do any mental health shows, and I don't know why not. But anyway,
We
that's
will.
you've been traumatized. That's
Uh,
what you're experiencing is PTSD.
who? No,
You,
look,
because there
Sandra.
was no reason. There is no reason for you to, like you say, break out in a cold sweat and all this stuff. And yours is because again, you know of, and again, I'm not. George's dad was killed because was he a cab driver, correct? And
He
see,
did.
that kind of stuff you never got over. So now you associate that because that comes back to your mind. That's why I'm trying to tell you it's no more violent now than it was then. The
Shoot.
issue now is that it is televised because of social media, just like people said, because of the news, the 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 10 o'clock, because no news just come on only twice a day. Now news is on all day long.
All day
And they're
long.
playing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. It's just like having listened to elevator music. That's subliminal messaging.
Wait,
And what
wait.
it does, it introduces a bunch of anxiety because even if you don't listen to it, for a lot of people, if you don't listen to it right away, you hear the same story 3, 4 times a day.
Yes, you
You
do.
pick up on stuff that you missed, and then you say, "But damn, is that what they said?" I'm telling you because people do it all the time. Even at work. I would tell them turn that mess off because we never gonna get nothing done with these people because it was upsetting them. And
Wait.
it isn't that it's happening anymore. It's just that you have more knowledge of the incident. You have, again, it isn't a Sun Times, a Defender, or a Tribune to determine what they put on the news, even though they do still determine what they're going to put on the news. Because if they don't put it on there, they're going to play it somewhere on Facebook, TikTok,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Instagram. So
Wait.
because you're on those media outlets, you're hearing about this and you're hearing about it all day, every day. And
Now
you almost
stop.
have to
Now
start
stop. You're right.
filtering.
You're right.
You
You're
just have to
right.
start filtering what you hear, how long you listen to it, or if you want to hear it at all. And that's what's wrong with a lot of people. And it isn't that crime is more, you know more about it. People, and sometimes, unfortunately, more people know they're teaching some people to be, again, better or different types of criminals because that information is readily available.
Now wait, Sandra. Let's introduce Lavette to the show because I know she got something to say about children, and she raised her children, and she didn't even send them to public school. They were homeschooled. So she has a whole different perspective on raising children. And it
I'm traveling,
obviously,
Wanda.
oh,
I'm traveling, and
oh,
I can't. I'm not going to be able to hear because I can't hardly hear you. That's why I'm just
oh,
listening to you all.
okay, okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you all hear her?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if you want to talk, you can, but otherwise we'll go on with the conversation. It's all about the
Okay, yes,
kids.
I'm listening. It's interesting, so I'll just listen.
Okay, okay, so yeah, it's I don't know, maybe and maybe you see that there's not a big difference in the violence today, but I think today our children are like they're desensitized to the violence because it's all around them.
Because they hear it and see it. People make a grave mistake of letting their kids watch virtually any film, any movie that they want. They'll have that toddler, they'll have that preschooler, they'll have that elementary kid, that high school. They're sitting around watching the same kind of movie their parents or grandparents or guardian or babysitter is watching. I have never believed in that because, first of all, you need to be able to process and understand what's happening or what the plot is, because that's another thing. I watch shows and different things looking for the plot. They have stuff on that has really no plot. It doesn't have anything to do with a plot. It's about exposing all the different, and I'm not going to say heinous, but again, crazy. They call it crazy or weird things that could happen. Like the movie Scream is on again.
Oh, I
We talked
saw that
about
one time. I didn't
we
want to
talked
watch that
about
no more.
how it screwed up kids, where kids don't even like clowns. And I told them, I said, that's why, because all they watched the series of it, and they shouldn't have been watching that stuff. And we would have known, those of us who knew better, we thought about the clowns being with Bozo or Ringling Brothers
Right,
and Barnum and Bailey Circus.
Right.
We never associated clowns per se with being any kind of criminal act. Again, until they did all that because of John Wayne Gacy. Because
Mm.
once they found out all the stuff he was doing, they sensationalized it. And when they couldn't use his name because he was living, they came up with some other stuff. But they let their kids see and be a part of everything. So by the time that person is even preteen, that's bothering that kid. That's some anxiety going on. They have these uncertainties going on, and they don't know what to do because you let them see stuff that when they were too young. It's like telling kids about some stuff when they're too young. You're just setting that kid up for failure.
So
Okay,
we
so
have,
go ahead.
you
I
know,
was about to say, Karen, what do you say to all that?
we have to start considering geographical location. Chicago is a big city, and everyone has wheels. The first thing people are going to do is have cars. So nothing is contained. If you live in a small village, if you live in a suburban area, then you're going to see the world a lot different. Um, when it comes down to where we have evolved to, oh no, these kids they see things that we have never seen. They know things that we don't know. They'll teach you. They can teach us good stuff and they can teach us stuff that's not good. That's why our teaching approaches have to change, because
Yes.
we can't assume we can tell somebody who's been through so much that we don't even know about. I mean, and I experienced that in the 90s when I began teaching. I was a grandmother. I was 37 years old. I was a 37-year-old grandmother. And so for me to become a teacher on the west side of Chicago, period, for me to be a teacher, it was no expectation for that. So therefore, I engaged children. I did not talk down to them. I did
Yeah.
not blame their mothers. None of the nonsense that people do when they have when there is a disconnect of our humanity,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
a forgetting of our history, because we imploding. The black on black crime is ridiculous now. And I mean, now if we're not beginning we have to look at it not just from our own personal perspective, but we have to look at it from a principled perspective. And that's why it is really time out to blame the parents, because the thing is, if the parent is not there,
Yeah.
we have all these children who have come in. This has always been a sanctuary city. Before we got here, it was a sanctuary city. It's
Okay.
always been a city where people came to do better, where people came to learn, to go to school, get paid, and do whatever they do. And so I'm speaking from the perspective of Chicago and
Right.
being a 70-year-old woman and what I have seen. And so, the best that we can do right now is be a platform, but at least understand the land itself. We're not going to be able to wake up. We're not going to be able to make a king. They're already born kings and queens. Let's let that go.
Okay.
If they're doing something out of pocket, somebody put it there. You
Mm-hmm.
know, how do we redirect it? Or if we're the ones to redirect it. But as I said, those kids are so your grandchildren are blessed. Mine are. My
Yeah.
grandkids got so many doggone grandparents. It's ridiculous. Well, my son, when he got married at Trinity, I remember he had so many grandparents until the wedding coordinator said, "Well, how many grandmothers do you have?" Because you have all these people, so you have all of that structure that came from the South, you know, who went to church, who
Mm-hmm.
believed something, but now